We saw the good, the bad, and the ugly from Stetson Bennett. What is the biggest Rams concern heading into the 2023 season? How can they fix it? And did the Rams find their tight end for the future? That's coming up next on Locked On Rams.
You are Locked On Rams, your daily Los Angeles Rams podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Ramily? And welcome to another episode of Locked On Rams, your daily podcast covering your two-time Super Bowl champion Los Angeles Rams. Free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Locked On Rams, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. If you haven't yet, be sure to subscribe to the Locked On Rams YouTube channel. Do us a favor, join the party, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, hit that like button, and let us know. What is your biggest takeaway from the Rams' second preseason game? My name is Doug McCain. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at DMAC_LA. I've been covering LA sports for over a decade, the Lakers for SI, the Dodgers for Dodgers Nation, now the Rams for Locked On. And as always, I'm joined by the Rams pre-half and post-game show host for the Rams flagship radio station, ESPN 710 LA. He's entering his 8th season covering the team, the People's Champ, Mr. Travis Rogers. You can follow him on Twitter at Travis Rogers. On today's show, there were some bright spots. We have a tight end that looks like he could have impact for this team, a nice bright spot for this team. In our second segment, the biggest concern for me, but we start with the quarterback, Stetson Bennett. Wasn't the best night for Stetson, had some ups and downs. We're going to get into that. But first, this episode of Locked On Rams is brought to you by BetterHelp. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOn today to get 10% off your first month. Now, Travis, it's preseason. We know that preseason's like having fruit for dessert, but still, they don't look great. Their second straight loss.
We could have a little ice cream on that fruit, right? That's something that we can do. That's not all bad. Yeah, look, they lost another game, same score, 34-17. The Raiders played their number ones on that opening drive, and the Rams didn't put up much resistance in that opening drive. And like you said, Stetson Bennett, in his second action as an NFL quarterback, preseason action as an NFL quarterback, did not look as good as he did in the first game. And it's to be expected, I think. This is the life of a young quarterback in this league. 2 steps forward, 1 step back. I think this was the step back. There were some nice plays that he made along the way, but I think there were a few more things that made you go, okay, I gotta clean that up. But it's not the end of the world, because this is kind of what I expected. This is a guy that was just getting started. Had the game against the Chargers, those first couple of passes been intercepted, and they probably should have, and then this was his second game, I think we're feeling a little bit differently. But he got off to such a good start against the Chargers. It was I think the bar is a little artificially high coming into the game against the Raiders.
Yeah, there's a lot of hype surrounding him after his first start. He looked impressive. He did have some bad throws. He came out, looked a little shaky. If you look at his numbers, he goes 15 of 24, 142 yards. Did throw that pick six, had the rushing touchdown on the keeper to finish off that 11-play drive in the third. And yes, he did have flashes. And to me, flashes is another word for inconsistent, right? I mean,
Sure.
There's a little inconsistent out there. And I think the good, the bad, the ugly. I mean, the good, of course, the bounce back there, that 11-play, 75-yard drive, the 4-yard TD on the read option there. I was impressed by that. Threw a beautiful ball to Xavier Smith in the second half. I like what Andrew Whitworth said. The ball caught Xavier Smith there when it really stuck on his left shoulder. So he did make some really nice throws. And I think if you kind of break down his film, I mean, you see some really nice anticipation. That's also the reason why he threw the pick six. On the ugly right there, he threw that pick six there in the second quarter and just looked worse because there was no Rams receiver in that zip code, right? And he thought that Tyler Johnson was going to be there, try to anticipate that. And Johnson was running the correct route, but he ends up throwing that pick six there.
Yeah, look, the interceptions are kind of a 50-50 proposition, right? About half the time, the quarterback has made a bad throw or a bad read or a bad decision. And about half the time, the wide receiver has done something that put the quarterback in a position to make a bad throw, a bad read, a bad decision, because the guy's not where he's supposed to be. So those sorts of problems where somebody just makes the wrong move, whether it's the quarter, those are ones that don't concern me all that much, because that stuff will get cleaned up the more they play together, the more experience that those guys have together. I think the anticipation that you talk about, D-Mac, is something that needs to come along. This is the difference between a young quarterback and an experienced quarterback. And I'll go back to last year and just talk about the difference between Baker Mayfield and both John Wolford and Bryce Perkins. Baker Mayfield may not be the second coming of Peyton Manning. I don't think I'm out on a thin branch on that one. But what he is he's an NFL quarterback. He knows when the play is going to be open. He's not waiting for it to come open. That's the difference between a guy that's been around and a guy that hasn't. A new guy, Stetson Bennett, is waiting to see that it's open and then letting it rip. Baker Mayfield or Matthew Stafford or somebody who's been around, okay, they know that's going to be open in about a second and a half. I got to let it go right now. And they're throwing guys open. That's what Stetson Bennett needs to develop into. It's not uncommon. It's something that I think that he'll be able to figure out. But those balls just being a little bit late, a little bit, just that half a second difference is all the difference in the world. And I think that to me is something that needs to get worked on moving forward.
Yeah, exactly. I think you see that with young quarterbacks. Yes, we know his age for a rookie. He's a little older, but still, it's his second preseason game. And like Sean McVay said after the game, you're throwing out there vanilla concepts. You're throwing out there routes that you're not going to be seeing. So I think for him, you get more comfortable with that playbook, you're going to have more success. You get the reps, you get the experience. I did see some flashes, though. I mean, that nice play action 24-yard catch there to Tyler Johnson. He does have a quick release at times, throws a really catchable ball. But for me, sometimes there's some panic throws. I mean, breaking the pocket, extending the play, trying to make things happen when there's nothing there. That's just the life in the NFL. The SEC, a great league, nothing like the NFL, okay? Especially when you have the talent advance you had in Georgia. When you have the balanced playing field, the level playing field, you're not going to get those breaks. Sometimes you're going to go 3 and out. I think for me, if he does get an opportunity, of course, that's bad. It means something happened to Matthew Stafford, but he can make us competitive and help you win games. We also don't want to have him lose games. That pick six almost threw another interception later in the game, and that to me is the concern there. Is you want a guy that can go in there and compete, but also you want to limit the interceptions, the turnovers. I do love the fact that he took complete accountability, said it was completely my fault. I thought that he was going to run a different route than he did and anticipated it, and then he ran the one that was called. I threw the one that wasn't, and I paid for it. Now, Travis, also want to point out, why did someone throw a beer can there? I know me a Pacifico tall boy when I see one. What's up with that? Who throws a beer can?
I thought it was a penalty for half a second because the can was yellow until I saw it bounce on the ground. I'm like, okay, a penalty flag doesn't bounce like that. That was something other than that. You're right. Those things are way too valuable to be thrown on the field. Never mind how dumb it is to throw something on the field. Here's the thing about Stetson Bennett that I'm most curious about going into week 3 against the Denver Broncos. That I'll be most curious about watching him if, in fact, he gets into a real game. Whether or not the arm strength is there. There were a couple of throws outside the hashes. There were a couple of balls out on the flat, some balls that absolutely have to be ripped into those spots that were thrown with less velocity than I think they needed to be thrown with. I don't know if that's him just trying to be accurate. I don't know if that's him not understanding how fast NFL defensive backs can be and step in front of those balls. But there was more than one occasion where the ball came out of his hand. I'm like, no, you got to throw that ball a lot harder than that. This is the NFL. The ball needs to be thrown with velocity, on target, on time. And that's something that I got my eye on moving forward, because there were a couple of balls that really were in the air for way too long of a time. That simply will not work in this league.
Yeah, I agree. You definitely want to see him make progress and take a step forward from that aspect. And I think for him, it's just putting himself in a position where it's about the ball placement. It's about the touch that he throws and getting it out of his hands early and making those reads and going through those progressions. And we have seen him do that at an advanced level. I think that Stetson is the right guy for this offense. I think moving forward, you got to have a backup quarterback, especially on a rookie contract. What I'm looking for is, what does this say about Brett Rippon? Because Brett Rippon, he comes in the game, essentially just hands the ball off the entire time. Are they giving all the reps to Stetson Bennett because they want to give him that valuable experience? Do they think that this is locked up, that he's the QB2? They're going to go with 2 quarterbacks. Is the backup quarterback job absolutely cemented right now? I think it is, but it's very interesting to see how they're going to play that.
Yeah, look, he's getting the reps because I think this is about what they're going to do all season long. They want to evaluate what they have. They need to know what they have on this roster for what's coming after the 2023 season. And I don't mean to punt on the year before it's even started, but you can see it, right? They're having tryouts all year long, whether you can be a part of this team on a championship level. This is not a championship team as currently constructed. Doesn't mean it won't be in a year or so. Doesn't mean that they can't get to where they need to be. They're trying to figure everybody that Brett Rippon is not a part of a championship level team. He's not. And no disrespect to him. That's fine. That's not his role in this league. Stetson Bennett, they're trying to figure out is he a starter? Is he a quality backup? Is he neither of those things? Is he both of those things? That's what they're trying to figure out. I think that's why you saw him play virtually the entire game on Saturday. And I think you'll see him play a lot more against the Broncos coming up 6 days from now.
Agree 100%. I think he has all the attributes to be a quality backup in this league. Most impressive thing to me is his bounce back. When he makes a bad play, gets right back out there and usually figures some things out. He showed me some there on that 75-yard drive. But my biggest concern for the Rams heading into the 2023 season is coming up next on Locked On Rams.
Locked On Rams is sponsored by BetterHelp. Sometimes you're not quite sure where you need to go, or even if you know where you need to go, you're not quite sure on how to get there. Life can be faced with all sorts of different tough choices, whether you're dealing with decisions about your career, decisions about relationships, or really anything else. Therapy can help you stay connected to what you really want while you navigate life so you can move forward with confidence and with excitement and trusting yourself to make decisions that align with your values. It's just like anything else. The more you practice it, the easier it gets. So if you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online. It's designed to be convenient. It's designed to be flexible, and it's suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist, and you can switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. Let therapy be your map with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/lockedon to get 10% off of your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon.
And we are off and running here on Locked On Rams. Thank you for making Locked On Rams your first listen every single weekday, free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Locked On Rams, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And a special shout out to our everyday listeners. We appreciate you watching every episode, listening to every episode, and you can join the Everyday Listeners Club too. Membership is 100% completely free. Just watch every episode, listen to every episode, and you won't miss a thing about your Los Angeles Rams. Now, Travis, here in our second segment, we got to talk about the defensive line, the lack of pass rush, the struggles against the run. We saw it on display once again. Just 7 pressures for this Rams defensive line. The one sack they got was Keir Thomas coming off the edge, and that really was more of a coverage sack. To me, this is my biggest concern. Yes, when Aaron Donald returns, that's going to open some things up. We know they're going to see more one-on-ones. They're going to have more opportunities to get to the quarterback and fill gaps there and stuff the run. Ernest Jones returning is also going to help that as well. But for me, I'm just not so sure the external options are there right now for this to be a competent offensive line heading into the season.
Like you said, D-Mac, it'll be better when Aaron Donald comes back because Aaron Donald changes everything, right? But I agree with you. I don't know if his presence is enough to make what we're seeing so far be a viable NFL defense. I'm going to kind of flip this on its head just a little bit. I think what we're seeing with the defensive line makes it all that more important that the offensive line is good. I think the offensive line has a chance to be good enough. The offensive line, if it's good enough to give Cam Akers what he needs, to give Matthew Stafford what he needs, to give Cooper Kupp what he needs, then I'm going to be able to score some points. I believe that the Rams can score. But the defensive line, what I'm seeing right now, I don't know, man. I just don't know if that's going to be good enough to be an NFL defense that can hold another team to 17, 20, 21, 24 points. And that's kind of where you have to be to win consistently in the NFL, is somewhere in there. This feels like a defense that's not getting pressure on the quarterback, that does not have a ton of back, the second layer of the defense, the linebackers. Of course, we're talking about the back end of the defense with the secondaries and the safeties. If they're not getting pressure up front, that puts an incredible amount of pressure on those next 2 layers of the defense. And I just haven't seen it. Kobe Turner played again this weekend. He really didn't have much of an impact on the game. Byron Young did not play, but what we're seeing, Michael Hoyt does not look like he's getting the pressure on the quarterback like we were hoping to. So, look, there's still a long way to go. There's still a lot of work that can be done, but I agree with you that what we're seeing right now is cause for concern.
Yeah, I mean, you look at that first drive right there. The first quarter alone, The Raiders had 8 first downs with 4 coming on run plays. The Raiders averaged 5.8 yards per carry on their first drive. They finished it off with that 7-yard touchdown, and they just had no answer. And you saw the schemes they were trying to deploy there. They used Christian Roseboom in the inside linebacker spot to try to fill in some gaps to really aid the defensive line, but still, they just weren't able to stop that run at all. You saw the I formation just kind of running it down their throat. And my concern is, yes, there's a lot of young players, and we know what they want to do now. The direction they're heading, they want to build in the draft. They want to build internally. They want to find guys and try to take advantage of those inexpensive contracts. But still, when you look at the teams early on in that schedule, if the light doesn't turn on and they're not able to have success early, this season could get away from them. So I think for me, I look at last season, A'Shawn Robinson's gone. Greg Gaines is gone. If you look at the deals they signed, I mean, Gaines signs a 1-year, $3.5 million contract with the Bucs. Gaines, he's gone. Robinson with the Giants. I mean, I think they should have kept at least one of those guys if you want to have another veteran on this team. And I just think, I don't know, it just really says the direction they're heading in with the roster they have.
Don't listen to what they say. Watch what they do. And I've been saying it since free agency happened. I've been saying it since the end of last season. You can tell me whatever you want. That's fine. But I'm going to see the players that you're putting out on the field. I'm going to see the players that you're deciding not to re-sign. I'm going to see the players that you're trading out and what you're getting coming back in. And again, I don't have a huge problem with the plan. That's fine. If this is the plan for what do we decide we want to call this, a strategic plan for sustained long-term success? Great. But that means that you're going to have some growing pains along the way. And that defensive line has some growing pains, and the defense as whole might have some growing pains too. Because keep in mind, the Raiders are not a team that I think a lot of people have penciled in to be one of the best teams in the AFC. Now, if things break right, can the Raiders be a playoff team? Yeah, sure. I can squint and see that. But this was a team that went right up and down the field in that opening drive, and this was without Josh Jacobs. This was without Devontae Adams just killing people. This was with some Jimmy G played on the opening drive. This was with some starting offensive linemen, but this is not the Kansas City Chiefs. This is not the Dallas Cowboys. This is not the Philadelphia Eagles that were doing this to you. This was the Las Vegas Raiders, a team that probably at its best is in the middle of the pack. And it seemed like they weren't getting much resistance at all. It's a concern. They've got some problems on that side of the ball. Again, like you and I have both said, Aaron Donald will help, but Aaron Donald there's still 10 other guys out on that field. He can only do so much. They'll get better with his presence, but I don't know if they're better enough to see what we need to see to slide into that 8, 9, 10 win category and maybe grab a playoff spot.
Yeah, 100%. And by the way, Aaron Donald, that man can rock a cutoff T-shirt. I will say that. My man's looking ready for the season.
I'd have nothing. I wouldn't own a single shirt. I'd just walk around. I'd go through the store like the Incredible Hulk. I'd have cut off little jeans. Yeah,
no, absolutely. And yeah, he won't be a part of it. Congratulations to him. His wife is they're expecting another baby, so he won't be a part of those joint practices. But I do want to point something out too about Aaron Donald. As great as he is, the best defensive player on the planet, still in my opinion. But Greg Gaines, he took up a lot of space there, and he helped Aaron Donald as well. He helped Aaron Donald do some things on that line. So I think they're going to miss him as a pass rusher, and they're going to see, can they find someone that can stop the run? Because right now they look very weak against the run. We know Bobby Brown III, he's big, 324 pounds, but does he play big? Does he have that ability? Can Bobby Brown III, can he stand the rain? I mean, that's really the question I have. Can he do that and have that success? So I just have my doubts right now. And I think, look, what I've been saying this whole time, I was preaching a couple months ago. You had guys like Houston signed with the Panthers. You didn't go out there and get that veteran edge rusher or another defensive player. I think what they're going to do, in my opinion, is they're going to look closely at the waiver wire, because we've seen the years past, Travis, that this is a team that they're right at the top there. Right now, they're the 6th team in line. So they can take advantage of it this year. And I think if a player becomes available that they can plug right in there, they're going to go that route.
I think you said something incredibly important, that unlike previous seasons under Sean McVay, the Rams had a waiver priority that was near the bottom, which means, 29, 30, 31 other teams had to pass on a guy before they had a chance to claim him. Now they're near the top. One of the few advantages of having a down year the way that they did last year is that you're at the top of the list on some of these things. So I think you're right. I think there may be some opportunities to grab some players off of other rosters that are players that have been released from other rosters. So that's a part of it. The other thing is, too, that to leave on a higher note with a little bit more optimism, it will get better. right? The more that they play, it will get better. The more NFL action that guys like Kobe Turner get, that Byron Young get, the better that they will be. Now, whether that's good enough, time will tell. That's just a matter of ability and film study and hard work and all these sorts of things. But whatever it is, as we sit here, towards the end of August and what it might look like in the middle of October and November, it will be better then than it is now.
Yeah, that's definitely important to know. Look at that little half full take silver lining is they're going to get better with one experience of the young guys. The young guys are always going to have to take their lumps early on. That was always going to be a part of the process, but also not just Aaron Donald. You're getting back Durant and Jones and Kendrick and Fuller, and this defense is getting more experience. I love to see John Johnson III. I think he picked up right where he left off. He looked like 2020 John Johnson III already in this scheme, and I think they're going to either figure it out, one, or they're going to add a cheap vet before this season. I think they're going to try to develop in-house, but I also think if they're serious about winning this season, they can't rely on that if they don't see the results early on. I think there are going to be some options. Like I said, 6 on the waiver wire. There will become some names available. We'll see if they go that route. I definitely think that you look at this team as a whole defensively. That's my number one concern. I think there's no doubt about it. I think that's the area where if you look at the position group as a whole, yes, you're going to get those ups and downs, but can they afford those ups and downs? When you look at the schedule early on, like I said early in the show, it's what keeps you up at night, man. I woke up at 3 o'clock in a cold sweat yesterday. I can't stop thinking about it.
Thought it was the hurricane. I thought Hurricane Hillary was what was keeping me. Light winds and drizzle.
Hey, that was a nice tropical little spark. It actually felt nice. It was kind of like a warmer rain. We're not used to that here, but yeah, hey, it wasn't all bad though. There were some bright spots, and one that I'm very, very excited to talk about next on Locked On Rams.
All right, football season is just about to kick off for real, right? We're just about to the start of the regular season, and FanDuel is giving you the chance to win all season long. Because right now, when you bet on a Super Bowl winner, you can get bonus bets every time they win in the regular season. How about that, right? You just pick any team to win the Super Bowl, and you're going to get bonus bets for every victory. You can use your bonus bets on spreads. You can use your bonus bets on player props. You can use your bonus bets on over-unders. You can use your bonus bets on even more than that. So here's what you do. You go to FanDuel.com/locked-on and you start earning bonus bets with America's #1 sportsbook. That's FanDuel.com/locked-on. You just pick your Super Bowl winner and you get bonus bets every time they win in the regular season. Pick your team and start collecting on those bonus bets. Visit FanDuel.com/locked-on. That's FanDuel.com/locked-on.
And we are back here on Locked On Rams. Thank you for making Locked On Rams your first listen every single day. Free and available wherever you get your podcast. Locked On Rams, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Now, Travis, here in our third segment, we're talking about a bright spot. I want to shine some light on Davis Allen. Davis Allen absolutely showed out, was very impressive in his NFL debut. Now, he missed most of training camp due to a lingering hamstring injury. The Rams, they picked him up in the 5th round last year out of Clemson, and he was great. He made 8 catches for 53 yards. He caught all of his 8 targets, made some really tough grabs. That first catch to him came towards the beginning of the second quarter. 15-yard catch where he had to go up and get it. You saw that catch radius on display, tough contested catches. I'm very high on Davis Allen. I think he's someone that could have an impact for this team, not just this year, but for years to come.
Yeah, again, I'll go back to the everydayers or get ready, say it along with me, right? It's like the chorus of a song that you love. WIP, work in progress. And this is what we're talking about with Davis Allen, that this is a guy that could be something that you use not just this year, but something that you could use for following seasons, that especially at this position, right? That in the Sean McVay era, this has been a position that really has not been fully utilized the way that maybe we thought it might have been when Sean McVay got here. We saw what he did with the tight end position in Washington when he was the offensive coordinator. Coming over here, you thought maybe there might be something similar going on. Well, really, the only tight end of note that we've had under Sean McVay is Tyler Higbee. Tyler Higbee's been the starter every year. Tyler Higbee's going to be the starter this year, but we really haven't even seen other guys. We've seen Johnny Munt. We got Bryson Hopkins this year. Maybe Davis Allen can slide into that role, but for a variety of different reasons. Number one, you've had all sorts of other weapons, whether it's Cooper Kupp or Robert Woods or Odell Beckham Jr. or whoever, or Todd Gurley. We've seen things like that. Then Higbee's played really well, but we just haven't seen the McVay offense utilize that tight end position, develop tight end positions. They've had to use them as additional offensive linemen last year, but I was very pleased to see what we saw with Davis Allen. I'm excited to see what it looks like against the Broncos on Saturday.
Yeah, no, I think that you're looking at this offense moving forward in the way that they're going to be used. Tight ends, I think, are going to be a big factor. They're going to play a big role, and I think he's going to be a weapon over the middle, a guy that's a threat, absolutely. I think the most impressive catch that he made was that 7-yard grab inside the 20, where he just fell forward and bulldozed for a couple extra yards. It took multiple Raiders defenders to bring him down. After the game, he said, growing up as a kid, my dad always said, don't let one person take you down, so I've always tried to do that. I love that dog. I love that fight. And also, you look at his roster status. I mean, Hunter Long, he's still inactive. And you got Higbee, got Bryson Hopkins, who they're high on, who's had a really nice training camp here. He's going to be third right there. And he's someone that had draft pick status, so you know he was most likely to make that 53-man roster. But I think moving forward, Higbee, he's not going to have very much time with this team, most likely. So he's someone that I think could have a big role in this team. I think there's no question about his potential. That catch radius, so impressive. You hear it used often when it was discussed about him, but that's something that really he has in spades.
Well, you talk, if a double play is a pitcher's best friend, a tight end that can catch the ball is a quarterback's best friend, right? We've seen what some of the best guys in the league can do when that position is at its best. You know, Travis Kelce, Patrick Mahomes is probably the best example of it, but it's just nice knowing that if your number one target or your number two target isn't there, that you always have that tight end option. We've seen Tyler Higbee have big games for the Rams. We know that can be a part of their offensive game plan. You go back a couple of years ago, he had a 3-touchdown day against Carolina. So we know that the plays are in the playbook. It's just a matter of somebody kind of seizing on it and kind of finding that role behind Tyler Higbee. And Davis Allen certainly took a step towards that.
Absolutely. Great soft hands. Very high on him. The confidence. I love what I saw from him in his first game. But you know what? I'm just happy we survived the hurricane. Right? We had this show. I was afraid yesterday we weren't going to have the hurricane. By the way, don't you love that? You have an earthquake and a hurricane in Southern California before Shohei Ohtani playing the postseason with the Angels. I mean, what are the chances, right? I mean, come on now.
Look, I don't want any copyright issues, but if you hear that on the radio at some point later today, I don't want you suing me because that's just too good. That's perfect.
Hey, it's just the facts, but hey, man, that's going to do it for this episode of Locked On Rams. My name is Doug McCain. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at DMAC_LA, and you can follow the People's Champ, Mr. Travis Rogers, on Twitter at Travis Rogers. And until next time, whose house is Locked On Rams house?